It's a brand new day. Hey. Wake up every morning and say, it's a brand new day. Hey. Take a good day, make it great, okay? Cause if you got some lemons, make some lemonade. Yeah, it tastes so good.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Garden Diaries. We are so glad that you're here on this journey with us. If you haven't already, we would love for you to go ahead and follow our social medias or go ahead and leave us a review on wherever you listen to podcasts. We're so thankful that you're a part of our journey, and we are looking forward to today's episode. As you can see, we have a different layout, and I'm missing Megan. Megan is out of town, and we miss her very, very much. However, I'm having the pleasure of the Wizard of Oz, who is normally always behind the camera and doing all the things for the show, my amazing husband, Mike.
Well, hello, everybody. Glad to be here and from behind the scenes out into the camera. So welcome, and thanks for being here with us as well. Thanks for having me, babe.
He's always here every single episode, so it's not like it's anything different, except for instead of being behind the camera, like he said, he is in front of the camera, and he gets to sit in the hot seat.
Oh, yeah, hot seat. Super fun. So.
And it looks like we're really far apart. I feel like we don't love each other, but we really do love each other. We've been married for, I said it was 13 years, but it's not. It's 12 years.
No, we're coming up on our 13th year. Yes,
I told somebody this week that we've been married for 13 years. I feel a little ridiculous.
Well, I hope I don't make you feel that it's been that long. So.
No, babe. Every day has been a walk in the park with you every single minute.
Yeah. We'll go with that as well for sure. So,
so we're still going to keep the cadence of our episodes, and I'm going to ask Mike some questions, and I hope he has some prepared for me, and then we'll dive into some good stuff. So my first question for you, and I think I can answer these questions, which I think is funny because I'm excited to see if you have different answers than what's in my head already. What was the worst haircut you've ever gotten?
Oh, wow. So when I was in the military, haircuts are expensive back in the day, and I had to get them regularly. And listen, now they're just ridiculously priced. So my wife over here, she was.
You better be careful about what you say over here.
Yeah, right. All right, it should be. No, she learned how to cut hair with me, and so I was grateful enough to have her cut my hair. But there was a time where she accidentally used the wrong guard, and she went a little short on my hair, and I wouldn't say that was the worst one, but that definitely wasn't the best one either. So yeah, that's.
I have to let the listeners know that you were very particular. So I did not go to barber school. I have no degree in cutting hair. I had no interest in ever becoming a barber. And so Mike likes multiple fades. And if you cut hair, or if you ever try to attempt to cut hair, it is not an easy process. To make sure that everything blends very beautifully, you have to be very talented. And it took me a while to get to where we're at now, 9 years
professional.
now.
Actually, she's better than a lot of those who have been doing it for a while.
Whoa. Let's not. I don't. We can get sued because I don't have a license.
Oh, listen, no, not at all. Listen, hey, she cuts my hair and she cuts our son's hair, and she does a phenomenal job. I'm telling you. So
yes. So I accidentally cut his hair with no guard all the way up to where he normally has a 2 guard. So that was fun, and I remember we had an event. Do you remember this? We had an event at the park. And it was so windy that your head got wind chapped.
Oh, yeah.
Because you were bald.
Because I was almost bald for the most part. I do remember that. Yes.
Oh, that was a good one.
So that was
I thought you were going to say back in the day when you were young, your mom cut your hair and put the bowl on your head and you had a bowl cut.
No, never ever had a bowl cut. In fact, actually, my hair, truth be told, if it gets longer than probably a couple inches up top, it starts to curl. And then I just have a curly fro on top of my head. So I definitely do not let it grow past what I like on top already as it is now. So
I think one day you should let the audience, let the listeners see your hair curly.
No, you guys will never see me. If anything, I'll give you a picture of what my dad looked like with hair back in the day. It's all curly and everything. So either that or a picture of my brother, because he's got some really curly locks there, and he likes to keep it long, so I do not. But I guess that's just, I've been that way though forever. So, but if I had to say a bad haircut, it was unfortunately it was that one time.
It was me.
Yeah, it was you.
was me.
It was
Okay,
you. It's
thanks.
okay. I can admit that. In truth and love,
I will
right?
I will never forget though, like, because when I had realized I had done it, I had picked up the clippers with no guard on, and I did it, and my face was horrified, and you knew exactly what had happened, and you're like, it's fine, just even it, just make it even. I'm like, but if I make it even, you're gonna be bald, and you're like, it's fine, it's hair, it will grow back, which has always been really great because like you don't panic at a lot of things that I panic at. So like it's just hair, it's gonna grow back. Where like if I did that to like myself, I probably would spend a night in the hospital because I'd be having a panic attack.
Well, I'm glad I can ground you a little bit. So.
All right, your turn.
I guess my turn over here. Okay. I'm very bad at just asking random questions that you guys always. So I'm always amazed at the different funny questions you guys come up with. But this is one that I wanted to lead with right here. Did you have a favorite nickname or a funny nickname that your family called you back in the day, and how did you get it?
So I have a few actually. So for softball, I used to play softball. They used to call me Britt Brat. So that was like my softball name, and it used to be on my uniform. My dad had a couple that he used to call me, and what's super funny and I think is really cool and just a testament of you and I is he used to call me Pooh, like Pooh Bear or just Pooh. And like when you and I started dating, you called me Pooh multiple times, and you had no idea that my dad called me that. Yeah. So that's a special nickname that like really you only know and my dad only knows. A lot of my younger friends called me Britty. I don't really love Britty. Britt.
I guess I should stop using those nicknames.
Well, you use Britty. Like, I don't like when other people call me Britty that, like, aren't family. Is that weird?
No, I get it. I understand. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, family members call me Britty. A lot of people that I know that I'm friends with call me Britt, and I'm good with Britt. I'm great with Brittany. But, like, there's special things that, like, only you and a few people can call me.
Fair.
Which is, like, Britty, and, like, only you can call me Pooh.
There you go. Okay. Fair enough. Yep.
That was a random one. Okay.
That was a random one.
Good job on your randomness. What was the craziest thing that you've ever done on a dare?
Gosh, on a dare. I mean, I'm an adrenaline junkie, so I mean, I pretty much will go do anything. I mean, I know you won't go jumping out of a plane or anything like that,
No.
I was actually a rescue swimmer in the Navy, so I mean, I enjoyed it thoroughly. But that was that definitely always gets the adrenaline running and going when you're flying.
But that's not a dare because that's your job.
That's not a dare, no. But I will say this, as far as that goes, I mean, to your question, I don't really know of like a crazy...
Didn't you eat that like chip or that chocolate?
Oh, yeah. Okay, actually, so...
See, I know the answer to this
You know
already.
that. Well, okay, and I forgot about it until you brought it up as well. But no, I was stationed here in Pensacola, where we live now and serve at a church now, but... I was dared to eat the hottest chocolate in the world, and this is like a million times hotter than the hottest pepper that exists there. So anyways, one of my buddies dared me to eat it, and he was like, as long as you order it, I don't care, I'll eat it. So I wasn't going to waste my money on it by any means.
But I'll eat it.
But I'll eat it for sure.
I'll take the pain that comes after.
Yeah, right. So I ended up, he got it in the mail, he brought it in, and mind you, this is chocolate. So
It's gotta be good.
Well, okay. So the chocolate and the taste of all together was good. However, it's supposed to be like this big. It's super tiny, and you're supposed to break off a tiny piece of that chocolate already and eat
like
it.
take a little
And
piece.
take a little piece of
Okay.
it, right? Because that's how hot it is.
Okay.
And so
You ate the whole thing.
yeah, I ate. Well, it got in the mail, and it was in the middle of summer, so it melted together. So there was no breaking off a piece of it whatsoever. I just said, you know what, forget it. I'm gonna eat the whole thing. So I ate the whole thing, and the video still exists. I'm not gonna show.
I don't think I've ever seen.
You don't
the
think
video.
you've seen the video?
I think you've like showed me like a portion of it, but I don't think I've actually ever seen the video from start to finish.
Oh, okay. Well, she'll get to see it. We'll see if maybe I post it. But listen, it was. I ended up ingesting it, and then it was pretty warm.
Pretty warm.
Pretty warm at first, and then I was like,
Pretty
okay.
warm.
And then I had some hot chocolate. Excuse me. I had some chocolate milk to go along with that. But yeah, a few seconds later, I ended up
Yeah,
regurgitating it all
Yeah.
up. So
You're a pretty good thrower upper regardless. I feel like those challenges are not made for you because like you have a pretty good stomach, but like your reflex is really, really good. I feel like you throw up a lot.
I did back in the day. I haven't thrown up in a long time. So I don't know.
It's true. It's true. Okay, your turn.
Okay, my turn. All right. Let's see. I think I know this question, or the answer to this question, but we'll see. What would you rather give up for a month? If you had to give it up, would it be television or music?
That's a hard one because like TV, we don't really watch a lot of TV. However, like the time that we spend together watching TV at night is like my favorite time of the day.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
the kids are in bed and like that's our time to like watch our show and relax and like talk to one another. However, like music is really healing.
Yeah.
And I also feel like music is a big part of my relationship with the Lord. I don't sing well.
Neither do I.
I sing in the car and like I feel like that's a form of worship that I do to the Lord in my personal relationship. So if I had to give up something, obviously, as much as I love spending time with you and like that time we have together, we would just replace with something else. It would have to be TV because if I took away the time with the music, I feel like I would be separating myself with my relationship with the Lord.
It's fair. I like it. Yeah, I would concur. Yeah, I think music is definitely something that soothes the soul altogether.
Hey, there's a song that says that.
I know, but television. I mean, like you said, we don't watch a whole lot of TV to begin with. There's not enough hours in the day to even sit down and be consumed with a whole lot of our time together, which is but maybe an hour and some change, unless your kid wakes up in the middle of the night and then they come in your room and they're like, yeah, hey, by the way, we're interrupting your time together as well, and I want to sleep with you. That's happened recently here.
Quite a few times.
Quite a
actually.
few times. So, yeah.
That doesn't happen to any of y'all. I know you can't relate.
Yeah. Nobody can relate to that, right?
Would you rather be able to, and I know the answer to this, but like I just have to ask, would you rather be able to speak to animals and understand them or know every single language in the world and be able to like have a conversation with someone randomly on the street?
Oh, easy day. Listen, I love God and I love the animals. I don't really want to talk to them. I don't want to talk to a talking donkey whatsoever either, or even a serpent, a snake. But I will say this: I'd love to be able to speak in any language, to really go out there and be able to minister in any language.
I knew this answer.
I knew you knew this answer, but this is why we're married, and so you knew it, but they did not. So maybe
Because it's so practical. Like mine is like, animals for sure. Because like I've always wondered what like rabbits think about and what my cat thinks about all day. Like, and you're over here like I can preach the gospel and reach so many more people, and I'm over here like, hey bro, what'd my dog say last night?
Yeah, I don't care what my dog said last night. Listen, he just goes and lays down and snores anyways. So hopefully he's dreaming about running around chasing, squirrels.
Yeah.
Or
dragonflies,
butterflies.
yeah.
So, all right. Let's see.
Chop chop.
I know, chop. Okay. All right. Your most nostalgic memory that lives rent free in your head consistently.
Okay, I'm gonna paint a picture for y'all. So let's take you back to like circa 1990, when the Discovery Zone was
DZ.
still around. What lives rent free is every year I had my birthday there, and it was like that place in my mind. And I bet you, like, if we were to visit it today, we would be super, super disappointed on what it actually
Let down
was.
for what it is.
But like, it was a castle.
It
like
was.
legit, you walked in and it had ball pits, and you swang from things, and like there was an arcade, and there was playrooms, and there was party rooms, and there was pizza, and the pizza was the best pizza I've ever had in my entire life. Like,
listen,
it was
hands down
so good, and the Coke tasted better, and the popcorn and the candy that they had. Like, I'm telling you, this lives rent free in my mind because like I really don't want to know what it really looked like, because it probably looked like a Chuck E. Cheese.
Probably worse, and I don't ever want to know what's in the ball pits. So
Yeah, because like they didn't clean that.
No,
Absolutely
ever.
didn't. But like, did yours have the one where like you go down on your stomach and you go?
So we had which I know exactly why they got rid of these, but they had the rolling pin
That's what I'm saying.
slide.
Where you slide down and you get stuck.
Yeah.
My hand got stuck in that a lot.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, too many people sued. That's probably why DZ doesn't even exist anymore.
Okay, in the comments, we need to know, do you remember Discovery Zone? Also, was it like a all around the world thing, or was it just like a West Coast thing?
It's a good question. I don't know. I only knew mine in Colorado, and then
I'm from California, so like they had tons.
Maybe.
So we need to ask some Floridians. Did y'all have DC Discovery Zone, or was that just a West Coast thing?
I don't know. Let us know. Know. We got to know this one.
But that's
sure.
my memory that lives rent free.
Okay.
Like it's my birthday parties and like running that place. Like everybody followed me. I went in the ball pit. Everybody went in the ball pit. I went down the. Everybody went down like, and it was my day.
Well, yeah. And I think anytime you go to Discovery Zone, it's your day. Like your parents.
No, but it was my party, so it was about me.
Okay, even better. You were at Discovery Zone. You were the princess, actually the queen of Discovery Zone.
And it was my birthday, and we had pizza for me and cake. It had to be the Costco cake. My dad always got me Costco sheet
I don't
cake.
think I ever had a Costco
What?
sheet cake. No. My grandmother, my Nana had.
I know, she's amazing, and she bakes everything. And I love you, Nana, for your cooking and your baking. However, I did not have grandparents that did that. So my dad bought me Costco cake, and it was amazing.
I can't say anything. I mean, Costco cake is good. I can't say anything wrong.
You haven't had it. How can you say it's good?
No, we've had it. Now
You just said.
I didn't. Okay, listen. Prior to all that, like growing up, I didn't have any
gotcha.
Costco cake. So, but I mean, we've had it recently.
So
as well.
your Nana baked cake for like you and your 14 friends?
All the time. I didn't really have birthday parties though. So when I was younger, I mean, we had a few, but I mean, most of the time it was just all family. So
It
was
really sad.
well, I didn't. I mean. Yeah, I guess if it was sad. I mean, I enjoyed it. I had a good birthday party. I mean, I got to eat my favorite meal. I mean, so, it
But
was
you
either.
didn't get to be king of the castle at DZ Zone.
I guess I didn't really care about that. It wasn't my thing.
Okay.
So,
Oh, that's funny. Okay.
I'm not
All right.
as adventurous as you are with your birthday parties.
This is true. Okay. So I need you to paint us a picture.
Oh, okay. All right.
What was little Michael's bedroom like?
Oh, gosh. What? Okay, hold on. What age are we going for?
Like what you remember.
Well, my brother and I shared a room together for the most part up until we had bunk beds and it was just a shared room until I was, let's see, I think I was 9 or 10, somewhere right around there. And then we finally got separate rooms. I mean, I didn't have a whole lot. I mean, I had
Do you like Britney Spears posters?
No, I definitely, I had like CD racks, and so I had a TV entertainment system. But I was always concerned. And still to this day, I have things organized the way that I do. So.
That's why I asked this question. Like, was everything methodically laid out, and everything
calculated,
had a place?
Yes.
And if your brother touched it and moved it, like
super
it was the end of the world.
frustrated. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I was. Yeah.
I'm glad that your brother feels my pain. Because imagine living with someone that I feel like you've gotten me to that point though, that like you've instilled that in a lot of ways in me. Like everything has its little place, and if it's not in its little place, then the world is ending.
It's
For
easier
Michael.
to find, and when you can't find things where they should be, then it starts to cause chaos and frustration, and so yeah, I definitely as you paint the picture.
Were your CDs like organized alphabetically?
Alphabetical order.
Oh, I cannot
100%. They were
And
alphabetical.
each like CD was back in its rightful case, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
It drives me insane.
That was me.
Yeah. Listen. You go to try to find the CD that
the
you want.
Backstreet Boys is in the Boys to Men,
Oh,
and my
man.
mixtape is in the Britney Spears one, because it's like the last one. I want to listen to Britney Spears, but I have one in here, and I don't want to look for the case. I'm just put the last one back.
I'm just saying this. I'm so grateful that we live in an era today where Spotify is the thing, or whatever you listen to your music on. I couldn't deal with CDs anymore. We just got past the part where our girls had the DVDs in the car.
Oh,
and
that was me, where I would take it out and I would just put it in any case.
any case, or not even in a case. You would just throw it in the back, and it's like, why? Why is this
I don't
happening?
have time for that. I have kids in life.
Golly. So
Okay.
no, yeah, CDs were a traumatic thing in my.
Did you color cord your
coordinate? I knew what you meant. So I did. I had it organized by my favorite shirts.
Your basketball tees.
Yeah, all the
Your
time.
Nike.
Yeah. So I had
Little Michael and
there
his
was an
basketball
organization process. Now I do color coordinate my closet, so that might be a little OCD type thing in my mind.
Mine's
But
color coordinated on my side though too.
yeah, but you didn't do that prior to. Prior to us being married, it was not color coordinated.
I guess not.
No,
We tend to still have a mess on my side of the closet most of the time, but I'm working on it.
Hey, listen, it looks really good right now.
Thanks.
I will say that. So the
I
3/4 of the closet that you have versus my quarter of the closet that I have.
You're a guy. That's how it should be. Just saying.
Oh, goodness.
Your last question.
My last question. Let's see.
Now that we've gone on a squirrel tangent.
Yeah, very much so. Squirrel tangent. Gosh. Okay, here we go. This is going to be a fun one.
Uh-oh.
What was the most rebellious thing you did as a teenager?
Oh. My mom listens to this podcast every single time we drop one.
So you're saying she doesn't know already?
She probably does, but I don't know the extent of it. But I used to sneak out of the house when I was at friends' houses all the time. So specifically one friend that I used to spend the night at her house all the time, we used to sneak out of her big sister's window to see boys or to go out or to do something. But the funny thing is, like, her mom would always catch us. So it wasn't, like, I can remember vividly one time, like, we went somewhere and, like, we told her we were going somewhere and, like, we told her we were going to the movies. And she was like, oh, what movie did you see? And we told her the movie. And then she asked us the ending and, like, we told her the ending.
Yeah.
But it was the wrong ending. And so we, like, totally lied to her. And she was a pastor's wife at the time. So, and my friend was a pastor's kid, so I was getting her in trouble all the time. So I'm really sorry about that.
Now look at where now you're the
tables
pastor's
have
wife
turned, and
over
I
here.
have two little girls that are probably going to do the exact same. And oh, heavens to Betsy!
Yeah, right.
But no, I did. I snuck out of my parents' house.
I guess you weren't really that rebellious then.
No.
No, I mean that's somewhat.
Did you sneak out?
No.
Then I guess I'm
Well,
rebellious.
so I'll actually it was I was a pretty straight and narrow type kid. I followed the rules for the most part. I'm the oldest one of three, so anytime anything, I was the one to get blamed if
you were the one that tattled on people. You were like,
yeah, if they weren't
my friend's
rule
big
following,
sister,
yeah.
that would be like, they went out of my bedroom
Exactly.
window.
I was,
and we would be like, why would you say something?
Well, listen. Okay, so I ended up. I think it was my senior year of high school. It was my senior year of high school. We ended up going around, and my parents didn't care really, as far as the fact that I would be out a little bit later. They trusted me, and so I picked up some of my friends and everything, and we TP'd some houses, and then we also egged some houses. So
See, egging is just mean.
well, I look at it now, and I'm like, that's stupid. I'd be
Yeah, if one of our girls' friends egged our house, I'd be pissed.
Well, I'm gonna go make them definitely go wash it and clean it up and
Yeah.
everything like that too. So now as I look back on it, I'm like, man, that was dumb. So, but that was kind of the rebellious things that I
Yeah.
So
Okay. I mean, I didn't egg a house. I TP'd houses before, but
That's
I didn't
fair.
egg
yeah.
because that was mean. And it smelled, and I didn't want to touch the eggs. Really, that's what it was.
Fair enough. We'll go with that.
All right. Well, thank y'all for sitting through the fun stuff. I wanted to bring my husband on here because, Megan's not here, and I thought he'd be a really great guest just to kind of talk about marriage. Mike and I are super passionate about marriage. We run a marriage small group. We've ran a marriage small group now for years.
Mm-hmm.
We're passionate about marriage because we work on our marriage every single day.
Absolutely.
So I just kind of wanted to talk through just the struggles of marriage, and I think it's also super important that you see that a pastor and his wife also struggle with marriage.
Yeah.
Marriage
absolutely.
isn't perfect. We all have our own flaws. We struggle with our own stuff, and I think that's why we have such a good foundation in our church. With our marriage group is because you and I are very vulnerable,
Yeah.
and we also are open to the fact that we do struggle, that it's not
Right.
our marriage isn't rainbows and butterflies. The Lord has brought it to where it is today, which
100%.
is amazing, but it wasn't always that way.
No. It had taken us probably 8 years, I'd say a little bit less, maybe 6 to 7 years of hardship due to our own natures, but really getting to a solid place in our marriage to where we value one another, we care for one another. But that did not happen prior to us both being in a solid relationship with Christ.
Yeah.
And it took that, it almost took us basically separating and going different ways for us to get to the point that we are now where, we're so strong within our own relationships with God, but then it helps draw us closer together with each other. And, as we're going to talk about different things throughout this podcast, I would just encourage you to know that if you're struggling, if you're walking through something that's difficult in your marriage, have faith, have hope, seek help if you need to seek help. But I will say that you are not alone. Marriage is susceptible to and really vulnerable to anything. The enemy will utilize whatever he can to be able to separate you and your spouse. And so I just would encourage you if you're walking through something, I hope this helps you, that what we talk about today would really resonate and be able to allow for the vulnerability that we have come along and shared with each other in our marriage, really take and utilize it for yourself, that you can be vulnerable in your marriage, and it should hopefully help allow for you to come to a better relationship with your spouse. So
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think of 3 key takeaways that we can give our listeners, and maybe we can touch on these 3 points.
Yeah.
The first one about communication.
Yeah.
That's a huge one. I think your relationship with the Lord.
Yep.
In your marriage. And I'm trying to think of a third one that we can kind of leave them with where you think they can really benefit from.
I think, once we talk about those first 2 things, I know a third and more will come out as
Maybe
well
intimacy.
too. Yeah, intimacy can be definitely one for sure. So,
and I don't want to discourage anyone who's listening right now that maybe they're not married, or they're in a season of singleness, or maybe they're dating, they're not quite married yet, or maybe they are walking through a divorce. I think the Lord can use what we say to resonate with you in a different capacity. And I think no matter where you are at in a season, that you can, have your heart open to receive what the Lord has for you.
Right. No, I think, this goes for anybody. Because we'll talk about our relationship with God here in just a moment, but I think, we've got to understand that that's where it first started to begin with.
Yeah.
We'll get into it really truthfully, but
let's just start with the relationship with the Lord, because I think you can't have a solid marriage without a relationship, a foundation in the Lord. So let's just start there.
Yeah. Right then and there is the first most important thing that you could ever do is, be in a relationship with our Heavenly Father. If you're listening to this and you're maybe feeling like you're a wayward, son or daughter, I pray that you would understand you are never too far away from God for him to bring you in, and or too far away to where you think that he doesn't love you, because he does. We talk about and you and I have talked about this with not only in our own personal marriage, but with several couples. Mm-hmm. The enemy, and we've got to know our enemy, as well too, to have a better, well-equipped lifestyle to know how to combat against that. And really in a Christian life, the reality of our relationship with the Lord is how we combat the enemy. We take a look in the Garden of Eden, the very beginning of Scripture, where God created man. And, he knew that altogether it wasn't good for him to be alone. And then he created him a helpmate. And, the reality is he could have just done the very same thing that he did with Adam and just create Eve from dust. Yet he said and made it more important that literally put Adam to sleep, took a rib out, and created Eve from that creation of life. And I think it's just so beautiful to know that when you fully indulge in your marriage, it is a depiction of what life should be like with Christ. I mean, I had to learn for a very long time that what I need to do for Brittany is not treat her as though she is at my every beck and call, because it's not something that, a marriage is called for. At least biblically, it's not, right? The world wants you to do that. And that's evident, as we look further in the garden and we go to, the part of where the fall happened, it was Eve that was tempted and that fell to the temptation. Yet, even though that may be the case, it was Adam who disobeyed God, and did not revere God in a way that would have stopped Eve. Yeah. And, I think a marriage can very much so fall into shambles if we don't allow for those things to be well sought out and well thought out in a manner that says, I know where the temptations are in my life, but those temptations won't consume me. Not only will they not consume me, but Lord, I give over those temptations to you as well.
I think a lot of times, like even in a marriage, some spouses feel shame.
Yeah.
Talking to their spouse about temptations that they struggle with. Right? Because like our biggest temptations that we struggle, it's a private thing.
Yeah.
And the world says it's a private thing. The world says like you do this behind closed doors. Like this isn't something like you're almost ashamed and embarrassed. Right. And I think a lot of times where marriages really start to get into trouble is that one person is struggling with something, but they're not speaking out to their spouse.
Yeah.
And like we can attest to that in our own marriage where you were struggling in silence.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I knew that there was an issue.
Yeah.
And you were assuring me over and over again there wasn't an issue.
Right.
But I think that's one thing that the devil tries to do is tries to put shame on it to where you feel like you can't communicate with your spouse. Right. I'm really struggling with this. I need you to be my accountability partner. Yeah. Maybe it's not your spouse. Maybe you're not ready to do that right then, but like having a pastor or a counselor to really bring that up. But like ultimately it should be given to God.
Right.
And then you should speak to it about your spouse. You should keep nothing from your spouse.
Right. Absolutely. No, I think when any sort of trauma happens in somebody's life, that's when there are guards put up. Yeah. I think there is a lot of doubt and fear and guilt that happens through that. Yeah. And we see that immediately. And again, as we speak about marriage and through marriage and these different things that go along with it, we talk about biblically. I mean, what the first thing that Adam and Eve did right after the fall was they ran and hid from God, and because they were ashamed. Yeah. And a lot of the times in our relationships with people, but more importantly in our marriages, that exist around in the world, right? But in your marriage particularly, there can be a lot of shame. There can be a lot of guilt, a lot of doubt. And obviously through these moments and times, you will create those along the way as well, too, without having a true opportunity to speak and be vulnerable and open. But I think, as we get into the parts of our marriage, we have to be vulnerable. Yeah. And we have to be vulnerable with God. If we're not vulnerable with God, I don't think we can be vulnerable with anybody else. That's right. Being vulnerable with God is one of the most critical things that you can ever do in your own relationship with Christ is literally saying, Lord, I cannot, but you can. And I know that my heart may desire something else, but your will is not that for me. And Lord, I need you to help me be consumed with your heart and your will in my life. And it took us a long period to get there. Like I said, I didn't grow up in church. Brittany's attested to that in her own, journey and through this podcast. I think you guys have heard that several different times, obviously. So neither one of us really truly grew up in a church where we were biblically grounded. Now, I'll tell you this, bar none, both of us had amazing examples of what a marriage should be and what it looked like.
Even if it wasn't godly, it's amazing to me that the Lord, obviously does everything for a reason.
Right, right.
But the fact that even though my parents weren't in church and weren't believers, I mean, they were
to some degree,
to some degree, but they still exemplified
right,
a very nice marriage. Where there faults, absolutely, there's faults in our marriage, but
Right.
like I think it's amazing that both of us grew up in a household where we still saw the love of Christ, even though it wasn't shown to us like that, but like Christ was always there because he kept showing us his love
right.
over and over again through our marriages, that we were being exampled.
Right. No, I think, you go back and that's just an assurance of that God has always been there with you and for you through those times. I mean, even though we did not physically or emotionally or spiritually even know the Lord was there for us, he was there through those times. And it's just so good to know that, God is so great all the time, and that when you place your trust and faith in him, he could do even mightier works in and through you, and just continue to do an amazing work. But, it goes to the point to say, okay, well, he's been placing this in your life, and, all of a sudden now you find yourself in a vulnerable spot. And now all of a sudden you get into a place where like, I need to get into church, and I need to be a part of this. I mean, gosh, we got married in 2012, and so yes, we're coming up on our 13th year of marriage.
It's almost 13,
right?
So it's not 13 yet, but almost. But we've been together for 13 years.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. So we have been together for 13 years, and
which feels like it's gone by so fast, but so like there's so much struggle within that, with like just seasons of life,
right?
Not just in our marriage, but the struggle of life. But like it feels so quick.
Right. No, and it honestly has gone by. I take a look at it now. I'm like, where has life gone? I mean, we are married now with 3 children, and I take a look back and I'm like, that wasn't that long ago that we were in San Diego. Mm-hmm. We just got married. I mean, and now we're to the point where, I mean, God is just doing a good work in and through us, and we're at a church, serving at the church, and God's doing a good work in the church, and we're seeing marriages healed and restored, and families coming back together. And not only that, but life change is happening as a ripple effect because of that.
That's cool.
And so I just, sometimes I get in awe of what God does, because it's just so cool to be a part of that, right?
Even just like a small part, like,
Right.
why would he use me? This
a broken
individual?
person. Yeah.
That struggles just as everybody else. Like, it's amazing that he uses the most unequipped to do some of his most miraculous work. It's pretty cool.
Well, and then, we take a look at where we were, right? And, I mean, we had come to most of our, pretty much, I would say, our most vulnerable point in our marriage, where when we moved here, both of us had kind of lost we both lost a major part of our life. Be it our fathers. I lost mine and my dad in 2015 April, and then 8 months later, beginning of January of 2016, we lost my father-in-law. And so we were kind of in a vulnerable state. We moved out here,
not knowing anybody, not having a community.
Oh yeah, we definitely knew nobody.
I'd never been to Florida, never even been past Colorado at this point. Like.
Yeah.
We moved here with nothing, with no one. I mean, my mom came with us, but, she was struggling with grief and her own, trying to walk through what that looked like without my dad. But so she was in no place to be like a support system in that moment.
Right.
She needed more support than she could offer support. But like walking away from our entire life.
Oh yeah, family. You name it. I mean,
friends.
We had community. Yeah. And back we were in San Diego, but we had community. We had friends. We had family. I mean, and it took a toll on us. I mean, when we got here again, like you had said, babe, the reality of we had nothing here.
Yeah.
I mean, we had to really come to grips with that. And you were pregnant with our second daughter,
and our marriage was struggling,
and we were struggling. I just got back from in 2013 from a major deployment. We moved out here in 2016, but I was gone in and out several different times in between that, when I had gotten back from deployment. And that was taking a toll on us as well too. We were both brand new parents, but I mean, you were pretty much taking care of our firstborn daughter, all by yourself for the most part, I would say, and that took a lot of toll on you as well. And you were in school. Well, no, you had finished school by this time. That's right. So, but you were working as a full-time employee, and there was just a lot. And, so getting out here, it was a different mindset. It was different time and a different place. And, we had to find it all over again.
Yeah.
And so, but I knew at that time frame, just prior to us moving from San Diego out to here to Pensacola, Florida, we were in a vulnerable state to where you and I needed to get into church. And I think, we were struggling with trying to find the right place, the right thing to do. And again, not really growing up within a church body or a family that really was, I wouldn't say godly, because we had godly parents. We just weren't really rooted in Christ altogether. In faith and in his word.
What the Bible said.
Right. And so, but we ended up, God placed us in the right place. Yeah. And, we can look back at it now and just say, okay, Lord, we know exactly what you did and how you did it and when you did it.
You had to move us across the world and get us uncomfortable and vulnerable to be able to walk through the doors that he wanted us to walk through.
Right.
Because I think if we would have stayed in San Diego, we would have stayed in the comfortability of the community and what
definitely.
we were already doing. I think he had to get us uncomfortable for us to turn away from our old life to be ready for him.
Right.
And be willing to allow him into our lives.
No, and I mean, when we talk about that, I mean, it's not like we were crazy people or anything like that. I mean, we were grounded. We had, because we were, given the best examples that we could of what parents and marriage could look like. But
we struggled with intimacy.
That was something that ended up really happening. I mean, we all know the digital era of where, we started coming up as kids and we started using computers and everything like that. And, one thing led to the next for me when I was a child, and it ended up, causing myself to have, an addiction, and that really took a toll on our marriage in the long run. And, we fought that, and I tried to fight it alone for several different, ways in my life. And, every time it just ended up keeping us, apart, or even just really putting a wedge in between us.
Well, I think it's so easy these days where it doesn't even matter what platform you're on.
Oh, right. Absolutely.
It's a naked person in front of you.
Yeah.
Even on Instagram, even on Facebook, even with all the filters in the world, what our world is okay with in this moment is very sad.
Well,
and it's hard for someone who struggles with that to even just be on Instagram.
100%. Absolutely.
Remember you're talking about even strategically going to a site, which we know you did, but what I'm saying is one thing leads to another, even for someone who is struggling, who's trying to make a conscious effort of not, filling their mind with that just on Instagram. And that's not even...
Oh, I'll say this. I mean, it just goes to show, I mean, even today, it doesn't matter. TV. I mean, TV or just everyday life. I mean, the unfortunate part is, back in the day, I always joke about this, but, guys on the basketball team or, we all had the short shorts and everything like that. But then, nowadays it's, complete opposite. The cheerleaders had the very long skirts and everything. But today, it's the skimpy dresses and shorts and everything like that for the young ladies. Yeah. And now the guys are sagging their britches and, and just their britches. Yeah,
britches.
I did. You like that one? So bringing back that term.
Oh, that's funny.
But I say all that to say that we are exposed to it. Yeah. I mean, I was exposed to it, and then we're still exposed to it to this day. There's not a, you can't walk out your door without, being exposed to anything, in real life today. I mean, you'd have to live in a complete bubble in your own home and, be completely shut off from the world to not be exposed to it for the most part.
What would you say? I know that you counsel a lot of individuals with this, because this is something that the church doesn't talk about, because it is a behind closed doors type of a sin that a lot of men struggle with and women struggle with it.
Yeah. Oh, you'd be surprised.
It's not just a man thing. What would you say to somebody that's listening that maybe their spouse or maybe they are actively in the struggle with this addiction? What hope could you give them, and what advice would you give them?
Sure. No, I think, first and foremost, we've got to understand that, our mind and our heart will follow together where we want it to go.
That's good.
And the desires of our heart will be given to us, in one of two ways. If we submit ourselves to the Lord and we submit ourselves to God and His Word and His truth, He'll reveal what is good for us. He'll reveal to us what we need, maybe not necessarily what we want, because the desires necessarily of our own heart are, oftentimes they can be very much so wicked and so and evil, and so we've got to guard our heart, and we've got to guard our minds. Or we can. The other part of that is we can be consumed with this world, and we can allow for things to take root in our lives, and we can not only allow that to take root, but we can let it consume us.
Yeah.
And so advice-wise, as I counsel through this, everybody is very much so unique in their ways. But I always, when I counsel, try to get to the root cause of it all. We truthfully cannot move forward in dealing with the addiction without getting to the root cause of it all. And so without understanding that, there's going to be there could be a little movement, but there's going to be a harder process to overcome this. Right. And again, I would say, as we talk about this as well, I think you have to be rooted in truth.
Yeah.
The further you're rooted in God's Word, the further and deeper you're rooted in God's relationship, the less of what the world is going to do and consume you and push onto you and expose you more to it. And the other part of that is, you're going to be so far away from that sin because you want to grow more in love with God. So, as I counsel, most of the couples that I even counsel have already been within their walk with Christ for a little bit now. And so I would say this, though, if you're a new believer and or not even a believer just yet, I would say that, you need to figure out your relationship with Christ first. I can't stress that enough, that if you've yet to enter into a relationship with Christ, there's no way that the biblical truth is going to help you, because you're not going to understand where God is coming from on that. So that's the first and foremost of what we've got to do. But then, excuse me.
Whoa.
Frog in the throat there. But, second to that, on the follow-on, if you have received the love of Christ, if you have, received the gift of eternal salvation through Him, part of that is the process of going through sanctification, where we are transformed to be like Christ. And, we can't be like Christ by conforming ourselves to this world. And, so we've got to submit ourselves. And we'll talk about that in just a second for marriage wise, what that looks like. But, all of what we do is, have the mindset to go in with, I want my mind to be renewed on a consistent basis. I want my love for the Lord to change on a consistent basis. And that's going to better help you find purpose. And not only find purpose, but then we talk about the marriage and your marriage and how that is going to really take root in your marriage and how you're going to see differently your spouse. And that's what happened to us. That is a legitimate case of what happened to Brittany and I. When we got into the church, we started turning our lives around. Yeah. We started falling more in love with God. At one point in time, you were leading a Bible study, and I think I took it over from you.
You did. You did, which is fine, because, I believe wholeheartedly, like, the Lord was just preparing you for your calling. And I think sometimes I might be a little bit more adventurous than you.
Sure.
And that's why the Lord put us together, because
Yeah.
you are the very grounded, very methodical, very procedural person.
Yeah.
And then there's me that comes in and, like, ruins all your plans and all of your procedures and throws pink on it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the many reasons why the Lord put us together.
Oh,
It's just
absolutely.
the way that
No doubt.
we balance one another. But I think the Lord used me in that instance to put you into your calling.
Right. No, I completely agree with that. I think, and again, the way in which our story even aligned was just amazing. From the time we were in San Diego with your cousin being a rescue swimmer, and you being the safe bet that I wouldn't, or I was being the safe bet that I wouldn't get with you. As we went to go meet you for breakfast with the one of the only guys that had a car at the time frame. I thought that was I didn't have any plans to even look at what it would be for marriage or anything down the road. But truthfully, when you and I thought you were materialistic at first. I really did. And I was like, nah, she's just too, she likes all these fancy things because you were all put together. And all that to say, God sent us to a baseball game that very same night. And, 3 hours later on a car ride, driving her back to Los Angeles from San Diego, we found love for each other. And
I can honestly say that I fell in love with you that night. I mean, maybe it was me being young and falling in love with the idea that this was somebody that has the exact same values and alignments.
Right.
But to your point, like, it was so God ordained. I look back and I laugh. Like, for someone that doesn't believe in the Lord, like, let me sit down and tell you about the story about how I met my husband, because like there's no other explanation other than his hand over every single moment. That kind of segues into the second point. We got to smooth this up, babe, because we're already at almost an hour.
Oh, geez. Okay, sorry.
Maybe we split this into two parts.
We'll see.
So one thing that I think we do really, really well, and I think the only reason why we do it really, really well, not the only reason, but a majority of the reason, is communication.
Oh, yeah.
And I think our background in the military, you being gone the way that you did, is everything okay?
I guess a couple people are calling us, but it's okay. I think we're okay.
Okay. That distracted me. I'm sorry. Multiple people calling you at the same time. I hope there's not like a fire or something.
Nah, we're good.
That's just normal life. I'm just going to be honest with you. We're going to be really candid here. My husband gets called all the time, 24/7, which is fine. That's your calling, and people rely on you, and I love that. But sometimes it's concerning. I'm not going to lie. We were forced to communicate, and sometimes not in a conventional way because we couldn't. So we didn't live in the fancy life of the military where like you have Wi-Fi on the ship, or these days I feel like these kids have it made. Like
they do.
They talk to their spouse, they FaceTime with their spouse. Like we didn't even have FaceTime when you were in the military. We had Skype. Which is really dating us at this point. But
does anybody even use Skype anymore?
We were forced to communicate in ways, and I think that really strengthened our marriage in that aspect of communication. But I think communication is something that a lot of marriages are lacking. Not only communication, but like expectations. And laying out those expectations before you walk into anything. So I think that we've gotten to a point where we're really good at, hey, babe, we're going to do this thing, but this is what the expectations are. And knowing that obviously we can't control all the things that are going to happen, but like laying out, like you're really good at laying out expectations for me, because you know that things make me anxious and that I worry a lot about things, but you'll sit there and say, okay, we're going to do this, but let me tell you what's going to happen, the why behind it. Like these are the steps. But I think communication is something that, if I could give one piece of advice to somebody that's sitting there maybe in a season where their relationship or their marriage is struggling, over communicate.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I'm going to touch on a few things on just communication because I think it's so critical. So in your marriage, you've got to know whether you're compromising or sacrificing.
Ooh, what's the difference? A lot of people don't know.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know. So if you've been in our marriage class, you definitely know. But I'll say this. Jesus sacrificed it all without any compromising towards whatever. So a compromising has a but in it, right?
Or a selfish aspect.
Right.
Something for you.
Yeah, you want to do something but, or you need to have something done but, right? So compromising has a but in it, or something that it's not giving everything over fully for it.
That's right.
And so, I think it's critical to know that when you speak to your spouse, men, we're called to, as husbands, love our wife and basically sacrifice ourselves for her. And, Eve, be it the helpmate, right, is supposed to respect her husband. Now, I'll tell you this. I don't think any woman who is respected won't love her husband.
That's right.
But I understand this, that if she's not loved for or cared for, she's definitely not going to respect and or love her spouse either. So you got to know in the circumstances of life what you're doing and how you're doing it and what this means for your marriage, right? Are you compromising or are you sacrificing? And sacrificing is giving it all up, right? So
and not caring what the outcome is for yourself.
right,
Like,
absolutely.
It's selfless.
There's
selfish.
nothing that when it comes to sacrifice, right? There's nothing circumstantial about it. There's no buts within it. And so when you are compromising, there's something that you are wanting to receive out of it. We can go do this, or you can go do that, but and so but that goes down to the line of communication, how open it is for you and your spouse. I think we did a good job of it at our beginning of our marriage, but now, I mean, I'll tell you this, I don't know anybody who could beat us, and that's not to boast. That's honestly, we just talk about everything. Even when we don't want to at times, we talk about everything. And then what I love about communication is that, you have the opportunity, and this is kind of cool. I think, you've got to get this in your mind that when you speak with your spouse, right, you can do one of three things. I could throw forth in there because it is marriage, but the 4 H's, okay? So,
is this you want help?
Yeah,
Okay.
see, so yeah, you already
He
know
does
this
this to me a lot too, but like sometimes you even throw in the pastor. Like, do you want pastorly advice?
Well,
I'm like,
that's always in the help part of it. So I do that because I end up going from the part of, do you want this to come from, and every answer really has a biblical truth behind it, but do you want me to come in as a pastor, or do you want me to come in this as your husband?
sometimes we're in a really bad argument, and we really don't get in a lot. I'll be honest with you, I think since we've been grounded in the Lord, our arguments are so funny when I look back at them, and I'm like, why was I even mad about that? But I remember knockout, drag out, I'm going to win, and that was my motive, is I wanted to win and I wanted to be right, and now we're on the same team. Yeah. But sometimes I'll be very frustrated, and you'll walk over. So do you want my advice as your husband, or do you want the pastor advice on how you're acting right now?
Yeah.
Because the Lord is probably already convicting me on my heart that I'm in the wrong, but you're just going to come over there and be like, hey.
Yeah. I do that a lot.
That's probably not the best thing to be doing. Right. And I dislike it so much because he's right. And in the past, I would get so frustrated because you were right. Yeah. And I didn't want you to be right. I'm right. You're not right. It's me.
Right.
But in the end, it's not about who's right. It's about, and I think you've said this, and this was a big pivotal point in my mind, was I'm on your team.
Yeah. Yeah. It's us versus the problem. It's not us versus each other.
Right. And I think a lot of times the world pits people against each other. Marriages aren't the same team. You can still do you boo over here, and he can do him boo over here, and you can be married, but you both can do your own thing. Yeah. That's not how it works.
No, not at all. And I'll tell you this. We'll get into the 4 H's in just a second.
Just your H's, sorry.
No, it's okay. I in the end, when it comes down to your marriage and everything like that, every night you've got to understand of who you're going home to. Your buddies, your ladies, your friends. At the end of the day, you're going home and you're living in the household with your spouse. Not only are you living in the household with your spouse, you are doing life together. Yeah. Your friends may come and go. Right. They may, cease to exist in your life at one point in time.
Even extended family.
And even extended family. But the reality is you will consistently live together always. Mm-hmm. And you need to understand that you will always be in a relationship with God, no matter the circumstance. So you've got to make it right with you and God, and then you can make it right with you and your marriage. So, here's the 4 H's. Yeah. So, and this is how I love to be able to really talk and go through a conversation where something might happen, be it, something comes up, we've got to come up with something, we got to do this, or, Britt's had a long day, or, something comes up. Anyways, it's help. Heard.
Well, do you want me to help you with the problem?
Yeah, these are the questions. Do you want me to help you with the problem?
Do you want me to give you advice on how to go about that problem? Because sometimes I just want you to listen.
Yep, that's true. So then heard, right? Yeah. So if you just want me to be heard, right, then that's fine. I can just sit there and just listen and be a sounding board. I don't.
Which sometimes is all I need. And I think a lot of men try to fix the problem.
We're fixers.
Right. So we come to, and we just want you to listen.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to tell me what you would have done, because I don't care what you would have done. I just want you to hear me.
Right. Yeah. So we can be help, We can be heard.
Yep.
Right. We can be held. Right.
Yes.
So if that's the case, that's fine.
Which is really hard for you because although, okay, not to go sidebar, but I have to elaborate.
No,
on
that's
each of
okay.
these.
Yeah.
But it's hard for you because like physical touch is not your
number
love
one language. No.
And
no.
it's mine.
Exactly.
And being held sometimes means so much more than anything you could ever say or anything you could do to me. It's just stopping to wrap your arms around me and say like, that speaks more words, I think, than you trying to help me.
And
in my love language.
Right. And I think this will ultimately help you overcome the moments in your marriage where it's like, you just don't even know me, and so now all of a sudden you're pitting yourself against your spouse and you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position to where now you're resenting the one that God put in your life for you. And it's hard. I mean, but you've got to be.
And sorry,
you're okay.
I was just going to say, like, it's not even, it does not even have to be anything sexual. It's just being held, being known.
Right.
That you're in my corner and that you love me so much that you're standing here holding me, kind of like God does.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, all the time. Absolutely. Well, the fourth H is and I mean, we're all
no, don't say it.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay.
But don't say it in that connotation.
No, it's got to be said. It's okay. So if you don't already know by now, but it's
part two.
Yeah, part two. Right? So you can be helped, you can be heard, you can be held. Or the last one is you need to spend some intimate time together so you can be humped. Okay. All right.
You just said it.
I did. And I'll be honest with you, there is nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
That God has created a marriage for that. And as for but a time to separate and come intimately to where you come together.
That's right.
To love each other, both physically, emotionally, and the reality is then you go back to loving the Lord. And it is not a bad thing. And I want to take the stigma that exists around a intimate sexual relationship, right?
With your spouse.
With your spouse at 100. Okay, thank you.
Had to preface
you
it.
do have
Sorry.
to give some detail to it. But the reality is, in a marriage, in the confines of marriage, you leave your mother and father, you cleave together to become one.
Yeah.
And to become one flesh. And that's the depiction of the Holy Spirit coming and living in our life with us after Jesus ascended, right? And then one day we are going to be in heaven with him. Yeah. But in any way, shape, fashion, or form, if God did not want us to have an intimate and sexual relationship with one another, he would never have had, at the very beginning of Scripture, to have Adam and Eve create life. Out of each other.
No,
right?
I agree. I think I giggle because I'm like a
does.
high school girl over here. Like
right.
he said humped on my podcast. Megan, I'm sorry.
Get the pastor under control over here.
But no, I think we follow those 4 H's in our communication style all the time now.
Right. We do.
Like we have implemented that in so many ways to where like, like I'll tell you something and I'll be super heated and super in the moment and you'll be like, okay, so like, what do you want? How do you want me to proceed? Because a lot of times like we don't know how to proceed when somebody's in that moment. And I think it's helpful to set those expectations on, okay, you have a crisis, you have an issue. Like I need to know how I can best assist you in this crisis instead of trying to fix it all the time, which adds fuel to the fire, which continues the crisis, which then we're on a merry-go-round, around and around. And I think that has been super, super. I think also like you do a really good job. Again, I'll say it again, but like you always ask me like, do you want the husband? Do you want the pastor? Or do you want a friend advice? Like, and
how much scripture you want thrown at you?
Right. Because like, I'll be honest, like being married to a pastor is hard sometimes because the Lord is convicting me already.
Right.
And then I have this amazing man who like has all this knowledge that wants to convict me too. And I'm like, okay, like I'm getting it. Like I understand. I don't need that right now. I need this from you. But then I usually ask you, like I say, I want all 3, but first I want this one.
Right.
And then we walk through each advice. And there's been many times where I've been like, okay, like I want all 3, but like that one I want last.
Yeah.
Because that one I know is going to like really pierce my heart.
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that. Like I think also like I want, and like I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but like in our marriage, like, I don't want you to think I do any wrong. Like,
Yeah,
I want you to
right.
think that I hung the moon. And I know that, like, I'm not perfect, and that that's not true. But, like, in my mind, like, I never want you to see me in a negative light.
Right.
Because you're the last person I want to let down.
Right. Right.
You're the person I always want to impress. You're the person that I care most about, like, how I look, how I act, what I wear, like, and that's hard sometimes to get criticism from your partner when, sometimes people have been in really bad relationships where it's been unhealthy.
Right. Right.
And to your point, trauma has happened, or the way they were raised, or how they were grown up. There's a lot of stuff that can really put negative context around communication because it wasn't done healthily. But I think that the Lord has really done a good job in our marriage on not only repairing our marriage from, like, the vulnerability of the sins that we talked about at the beginning, but the communication that we've had to go through.
Well, I mean, there's so much to navigate, and it's not an overnight process. I mean, if you're looking for a quick fix, I mean, the reality is this isn't
Start with the Bible.
Yeah, well, start with the Bible. But I mean, the reality is, even in the marriage aspect of it, and even in the biblical aspect of it, I mean, you are not getting a microwave ready type, answer.
That's right.
It's not it.
But
will.
that's what we want as consumers, because we're told that we can, like, that's what this has done.
Right.
Is everybody wants the microwave fix to their marriage because this is what society says
Absolutely
is. And why would we not be able to get a microwave answer? Because we can get that for anything else.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what we really have to. This marriage is a forever thing until we cease to exist, as far as our death. The reality is, this is a constant day to day, moment by moment effort of putting in the love that you have for your spouse. I love to be able to counsel couples through this type of stuff and just figure out the root cause to different things, and really understand and help them understand that your marriage is never too far gone for God to restore it. Even if infidelity has really crept in.
Counseled many couples.
I've counseled several couples that have walked through.
On the other side of it and stronger.
Yeah.
And I want to echo what you said. Like, I think somebody listening probably is like, well, they haven't met me and they haven't met my spouse, but I want you to know that God has, and there's nothing that the Lord can't do with two people that have fully surrendered to the Lord. That's the key point, though. Two individuals that fully come to their knees and surrendering to the Lord their marriage for Him to use and turning away from their sin. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I think it's just something that is very much so marriage is a hard thing, and without the Lord on our side, I mean, we definitely would not be sitting at this table. I can promise you that.
That leads us to our last topic that we're going to talk about. So we talked about having the Lord as your first love and your priority in your marriage.
Right.
The second was communication and your 4 H's.
Yep.
That made me giggle. And then the third is intimacy. And it doesn't have to be sexual intimacy.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's something that you do a really good job talking about. And I think that we do a really good job being vulnerable, being naked with one another.
Yeah.
But it's not a sexual naked. It's a
metaphorical.
Correct. Like
state. Yeah. Well, and I think, as we talk about it, right, getting naked as far as that, hey, listen, both physically, I will promise you this, an argument will stop if you just end up, getting naked. But,
leave it to the pastor to give you advice. If you are in a confrontation, just get naked.
Yeah, right. There you go.
There are going to be so many takeaways from this.
That's okay.
This episode.
That's okay. I got to be real with you. So, no, but also.
And that's what I think a lot of people appreciate about you and us and our inner class. Because we are open and vulnerable.
Yeah, and there you go. That word vulnerable. I think we've said it so much today, but the reality is, it's just being willing to open up in a way that says, I'm not afraid to share with what I have, both good and bad. Both trial and triumph. And saying, I'm going to conquer it with you on my side and on my team. There is so much baggage that people bring into their marriage without even realizing it, without even knowing it. And, you've got to sort through that together. You've got to sort through that yourself. Because if you don't, there's no way your marriage is going to have success, because you're always going to have some sort of existence that hangs over your head and looms there, and you're just, and you may never even know it, to be honest with you, until you speak about it, and then you're like, oh, wow, I had no idea, and now I can finally feel, relief in the, relinquish of the weight on my shoulders. But I'll be honest with you, you can't do that with just your spouse, because if you're never going to do it with the Lord, you're never going to do it with your spouse. So you've got to be vulnerable with God first and foremost. And, then and only then can you really be truthfully open with your spouse and be vulnerable and be naked, with them, and have the opportunity just to come together in a way that draws you closer to one another.
Yeah.
I mean, when you talk about things that are scary or nerve-wracking or that bring anxiety to your life, I mean, when you have somebody praying for you and loving you and carrying you even through those moments, there is nothing that brings more joy and peace and comfort than knowing that, okay, Lord, I brought it to you first, and now I'm bringing it to my spouse, and we're praying and lifting it up together. Yeah. And it's so freeing. It is so freeing. It's so, and I love when, you are, we talk about the 4 H's, but when we talk just all in general, when you and I just have conversations and we just say, what is on our mind, to be able to speak freely and, without any sort of repercussion towards it, because we know how to communicate now. Yeah. And that through that, it's like, oh, okay, I can see that, and I can understand why you may have gotten frustrated. I wanted you to do it this way, but and then that brings me to we talk about intimacy, so we'll get that into a minute. But expectations.
There's sometimes when I do something and you get frustrated, and I already know why you're frustrated because I didn't do it.
You like to press buttons sometimes.
Oh wow, okay, and you don't.
I do too. That is for sure.
Yeah, it's really funny to me that, not funny, it's just it's amazing to see how far we've come, and I know this is gonna make him mad, so I intentionally don't try to do that. I try to do it the other way, but sometimes the world doesn't always happen that way, and you'll be frustrated, and I already can tell you why you're frustrated.
Yeah, well, and I'll say this, that is knowing your partner, and when you are close to your partner, you know them better. Right? Mm-hmm. It's just like knowing God. If you are close to God, reading his word, being in prayer, and spiritually walking with him, you are going to know God that much greater on that level. And it's, man, to know God on those ways and those levels, it just is surreal sometimes to know the things that he's doing in your life. But I say all that, right, because God knows us all together. He knows our insides, outsides. He knows the hairs that are numbered, our desires, our thoughts, all these things he knows. How well do you know your partner? And then my question, for all that is, have you ever taken the time, because this is what we're called to do, is as husbands, I'm no longer my own personal responsibility, right? My responsibility now becomes Brittany and my wife as a whole. Her heart is now my heart. And my heart, it doesn't come before hers. And also now then the opposite, her heart, or my heart becomes her heart, and her heart is, and so we share this love with one another, that we do become that one flesh, spiritually, emotionally, physically, all of it, right? And then not only that, but you've got to understand them. So how do you understand it? I think, we've talked a lot about this, but the love languages, you brought it a little bit of it, but we didn't really talk about each one. But there are the 5 love languages of a marriage. And I think, if you can really dial in those love languages in your marriage, and you can find out what they are and bring it forth to the table,
it's a tool to help you succeed.
But it better helps you have that intimate relationship with your spouse. It better helps you communicate with your spouse, and it draws you closer to them consistently. Because I think that if we don't have an understanding of who our partner is or how we can love them better and what their desires and wants are, we're always going to be chasing something else that would quote unquote make us happy.
That's good. I also think I heard something recently on I think it's a study that we were doing, but like intimacy doesn't start in the bedroom. It starts with all the events that lead up to the
Absolutely.
bedroom.
Yeah.
So the way that you honor each other, the way that you communicate, the way that you help each other. And it was like a story about a woman, and she was like, I would be more willing to be intimate with my spouse in the bedroom if they would do the dishes for me. And that's just an example.
Right.
But it's like that partnership and that lockstep. Like intimacy starts when you wake up in the morning, and how, to your point, you glorify the Lord, but also how you are one with your partner and how you're helping and meeting their needs. And using that sacrificial love that Jesus shows us every single day.
Yeah. I mean, Ephesians talks about, love, and it talks about the way in which, husbands and wives are the role. I mean, it's very clear and evident on the way in which we are supposed to, love one another. Corinthians talks about it as well too. But, so we've got to understand that God is very much so for marriages, and he does not want any separation from us whatsoever. Yeah. I'm not going to get into divorce today. It's such a heavy topic to really go in depth on it, that we just don't have the time. This day,
you out of time, my friend.
I know I am. So, but I'll say this: that if you are struggling and there's something on your heart, speak to your spouse about it. Find why you ended up loving them to begin with, and get back to that. And then not only that, then, first and foremost, actually give it over to God, and then you can start falling in line with some of these things that we've talked about, communication, be it so key within the marriage. What are you sacrificing or compromising? How can you use those 4 H's within that? How can you be better intimate with your spouse and knowing their love language? And so, these are the tools. And I'm telling you, this is not an overnight thing. This is something that Brittany and I have learned. And sometimes people make it in marriage, without these, and that's great. But I promise you, along the way, there has been hardships, and everybody's going to come into a hardship, no matter the circumstance, where nobody, not one of us, is free from sin in our lives. But we can be, spiritually born and free from things, as far as, we no longer have the penalty of eternal separation from Christ through Jesus Christ, right? We talk about why he went to the cross, for us to have a personal relationship with our Heavenly Father, and so what do you do in your marriage to have that personal, intimate relationship with your wife? So, or husband, be it for you ladies out there. So, but
I would also say, if you need help, and you're looking for someone to talk to, reach out.
No, we're here for you.
Yep,
Absolutely.
We're here for you. We're here to give you either resources to look into, or we can chat with you, ultimately point you back to the Lord. But your marriage is never too far gone. And if you're listening to this and you're in a season of singleness, I pray that when you are praying about your spouse, your future spouse, that these are things that you pray specifically about. And if you are in a season of about to get married, or you're engaged and you're about to be wed, I pray that these are things that come up in your marriage counseling for you too. Absolutely. So I hope that this podcast left you feeling inspired to work on your marriage if you aren't already, or maybe rejuvenated, just maybe one little piece of advice that we could pass on to you to continue to strengthen your marriage in Christ. We are so thankful that you're here with us, and we look forward to having a new speaker on next week. But again, if you haven't already, please go ahead and like and share. We'd love you to share this video. If you want to share it to someone that you think would really benefit from it, we would love for you to do that, as well as leave us a comment.
Thanks, babe.
Thanks. All right, y'all. I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Later.
It's a brand new day.